The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast, the podcast that is here to help you, a loved one, or a friend get started down the road to recovery. This is the Friends in Recovery podcast, brought to you by the Genesis House. Genesis House, providing a safe, nurturing environment to heal from addiction since 1992. Please be a friend and share our message with a friend on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or YouTube. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, welcome everybody, Friends in Recovery Podcast. And you can find us at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com, and it's nice to be here at Studio 21. And it's also nice to have Genesis House still sponsoring us, almost a full year, Ed.
Yeah, it is. Coming up on it.
Podcast took off almost a year ago, and Taylor and everybody that works at Genesis House has been so gracious and contributing and generous, and more importantly, they've been very helpful with people that I've sent as a therapist and as a EAP for police departments and correctional officers, and sent a lot of people down there, and you know, get some good results, and you know,
and for you guys out there who are calling in and you know, coming down to Genesis House, you know,
sure.
So it's been great helping everybody and watching people get recovery. So you know, so it's a couple weeks after New Year's now.
Yeah, New Year's is over.
Yeah, New Year's is done, but now it's time to put those words into action. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what AA is about, and I think that's what we're going to talk about today is turning those New Year's resolutions into actions.
It's a great idea.
By now, you know, a couple weeks into it, you're definitely breaking those.
A couple weeks. Yeah. Come on, huh?
A day after.
I forgot what my resolutions were.
I know. But you know, so now it's action time.
Yeah.
And that's a big word in the big book, and in the step, especially in the steps, is you know, one of the steps.
Yep.
You know,
action. That's right. That's right. And you know, it's not just talking about it. And I think with resolutions, we all have great intentions, you know. But you know what they say about the road to success is full with a lot of people that had great intentions.
That's right.
Along the way. But yeah, I think it is an action word. To me, recovery should be an action word, and it's not just sitting on your laurels and hoping things get better. You got to get involved. You know?
You can't say I'm going to quit drinking or quit using drugs or go on a diet or stop smoking or whatever it is. You know, you have to put that into action. You know, and that's, I guess, what we're going to talk about today, because how do you do it? What does action mean? What's the definition of action in recovery?
Right. Well, I get a lot of people that I send away, and when they do get the program, I get a lot of thank yous. They think I did it, and I tell them, you've done the legwork. Yeah. You've gone to the meetings, you went to recovery, you're doing the legwork, you know, so I just pointed you in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's what we are. We help out, we listen. You know, I always tell people on the phone when they call me, you know, listen to us, we're healthier right now. Right. You know, your best thinking got you where you're at today.
Good advice.
And just let the professionals take over and listen to the suggestions that we have, you know, and then just take the action. You know, you have to do the action if you're out there wanting to get this. You know, family members, if you want to do an intervention, you guys have to take the action. You know, that's kind of what the action is about.
Unfortunately, and a lot of families have the right intentions, but you know, they're enablers. In spite of, you know, enabling and love are very close together. They run parallel. You know, you love somebody, but you can love them to death.
Yes.
You know, he's only doing a little. He's only getting high once a day now instead of 5 times. And, you know, well, that's because he doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But or his disease is getting, is getting worse, and he's, you know, he's getting high one a day that you know of, but he's stealing for the other 6 that that he needs. You know, he's out there committing crimes. You know?
I think it's important that when you let a professional intervene, doing an intervention like Kevin Dixon. You know, he's the
hey Kevin, Happy New Year.
Kevin, Happy New Year. the king of intervention. You know,
we love Kevin.
And you've done many yourself, and Jeff, our good friend Jeff Zeisel's done many, and you know. Yeah. You and Jeff, you helped me with a personal matter with someone very near and dear to me, and I had to get out of the way.
Yeah.
because you know what, I wasn't doing any good at all.
Yeah.
You know, and then step aside and let the professionals take over.
Yeah, even family members getting away. You know, like sometimes down there, you know, I had a question today. Somebody asking me, can family members come down and see their loved ones? Can they participate in the family program? Yeah, of course they can. But you know what? Sometimes if they're not healthy enough, it's not wise for them to come down.
Right.
And you know, the family members sometimes are sicker than the addict themselves because they keep the addict sick. They don't want the addict to get better because then their life has to change too. You know what I mean? They have to do something.
They might have to take a look at themselves.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. So, and we're not putting the family members down, but that's just what the disease of addiction does. It doesn't affect the addict. So all you family members out there are sitting there, oh, it's only Bobby or only Sally. It's the whole family that it affects. You know, and that's why we have to put this all these words. Everything we talked about last week on the show, put that into action now. You know, all the resolutions.
I think a great action phrase for recovery, obviously, there's a lot of them, but one day at a time.
Yeah.
One day at a time, if you just take your time and think of what you're saying, one day at a time, what does that mean? You know, that means, can you live one day without a drink or a drug? Can you do that? You know, with help.
Yeah.
Not without help, but I mean, with help, more than likely you can. You can get through one day. And in your own mind, you might say to yourself, well, one day, what good is that going to do me?
Yeah.
But you know what? For that one day, you learn to be alcohol and drug free. Then the next day, you might have more of an incentive.
Yeah.
You know,
I felt good yesterday. I can do it again today.
And then days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and months turn into years.
Yeah, but Mike, I remember, and you probably remember this too, in early recovery, you know, I couldn't think of one day being sober. You know, I had to take it maybe a minute or an hour.
Sure.
You know, I always talk about, I run marathons and everything. I can't think of the end of a marathon when I'm running it, or at the end of my training when I'm running. I got to stay in the here and now, thinking about this next mile or this next 3 minutes. How am I going to get through this? And that's what recovery is about. You know, how do we get through the next 3 minutes? Some people out there can't even get through the next minute, you know? And don't forget that the thought that goes into your mind can go away very quickly if you talk to the right people. That's why there's phones, there's sponsors, there's meetings. And, you know, it can change it very quickly because we have that one-track mind. And once we're beamed in, addicts and alcoholics, we're very smart and very resourceful and very, you know, we can get things done the way we want them to get done in a positive way and a negative way.
Absolutely.
So we have to kind of, once we get that thought in our head, we have to push that aside and get somebody, hey, Mike, you know, I felt like drinking today. What do I do? You know, and make a phone call to you, you know.
Well, I can tell you my own story is when I first was getting sober and hanging around with, you know, people that were sober. And I met a guy, his name was Lee Grantham. And Lee Grantham had done time for bank robbery, and he had been a guy that spent a little bit of time in Walpole State Prison, and he was a sober, happy soul, and he was a con artist, and he was a bank robber, and he was all these things. But when I met him, he was like a spiritual advisor. He had been down the road. He had been beat up, kicked around, lived on, you know, railroad tracks, and traveled, and you know, and stemmed money and stole money, and did some serious time, 12 years, you know. And here I am, a cop, just trying to get sober, and so I got a guy who's done federal time, and I'm calling him at night. Hey, well, I'm feeling shitty. I don't know what to do. And,
a cop calling a robber,
right? But it showed me. I eventually became his payee representative for Social Security, and you know, he ended up falling off the wagon and. You know, dying, and he was buried in a pauper's grave, and it was very sad. But there was a 6-year period there where he was like my spiritual advisor. You know, and I never forget. I pray for him every night still. You know, it's like if you really want to be sober, you know, I'd say the first 3-4 days, if you go to a detox and you get out. But a lot of people can't even afford to do that. They don't. But I think what I see in the halls of AA, especially in a structured AA environment, like a program that's been around, a meeting that's been around, people that have 10, 15 years sobriety that come in and really care about you. You know, they really mean when they say, hey, we love you, we want you, you know, come with us. And making a phone call, asking for help.
Yeah, when you're at those meetings, look for that person that Mike just explained that has that time that people gravitate to. There's a reason why.
Sure.
Because they help them stay sober, you know. You and I, before you were coming on, we were talking about a selfish program. This is a selfish program for us to take care of who we are.
That's right.
and guard our sobriety and do whatever it takes to make sure our sobriety is intact and healthy and secure,
right.
you know.
Right.
And you know, I my sponsor, I used to use with him. And then we kind of disappeared for about 10 years. And this was before he was my sponsor and before I knew about the meetings and everything. And I always said, when I grow up, I want to be just like Andy, you know? And
crazy.
lo and behold, 10 years later, I'm in a meeting and Andy V walks in the meeting. I'm like, holy shit, Andy, what are you doing here? He goes, buddy, if you don't know what I'm doing here, you better figure out what the fuck you're doing here. This was as the meeting was going on.
Right.
And I said, that guy is definitely going to be my sponsor. You know, it's you know, you have to gravitate towards those people. And, you know, me and Mike are throwing out some big numbers, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, but we all do it the same way, a day at a time. We still do it a day at a time. You know, we don't look tomorrow what tomorrow brings. You know, we take care of now. We're here talking to you guys, keeping us sober. Mike and I had a little meeting before the meeting. We sat down and talked about recovery and what's best for us. You know, and that's how it works. So you don't necessarily need to go to a meeting either. If you find another alcoholic, you sit on the couch with them and bullshit. You know,
there's something about catharsis, talking out your problems, you know, it's just very beneficial. And, you know, if you keep things bottled up, and most of us isolate, most of us don't want to talk because we're liars, we're cheaters, we're con artists, you know.
Well, everybody thinks that this is John Kelly quoted this. John Kelly from Extra Care Health Services and Stalk. He's a serial profiler too from Stalk Inc. He would always tell me, he was my therapist, and I'll let you get back to that thought, but we're not bad people getting better.
Right.
I mean, we're not bad people getting good. We're sick people getting better, just like a cancer patient. But we did some things that we shouldn't have done when we were using. So, you know,
and that's true.
So don't look at yourself as bad. Look at yourself as sick.
Right, and it is a sickness. And I mean, it's not far be it from me or you or anybody. You know, a lot of people that don't understand. I listen to talk radio constantly. That's what I did. I worked in a cruiser 28 years. 4 to 12, and I mean, you know, what do you do? So you listen to talk radio, and I've heard them all. But I hear some of these news, especially sports in the morning, and they're talking about a current Patriots player, the receiver that, you know, fell by the wayside again, and they knew he wouldn't make it, and he's supposedly addicted to marijuana, and they're poo-pooing it. They're making it sound like, well, you can't be addicted to marijuana. I don't care what your substance is. You can be addicted.
Yes.
You know, and
you can be addicted to love, sex, the internet, phone, whatever. You can be, you know, a process addiction.
And the AMA, the American Medical Association, has determined that addiction, whether it's alcohol, drugs, whatever, is a malady. It is a sickness. It's an illness. All right? There's a part of the brain that constantly wants and wants and wants. And you know what? Until you address that problem as an illness, not keep it on a moral level, you can't. You know, you got to keep it on a personal level. That's an illness. You got to address it. You got to fix it. And the most successful way to fix it is catharsis. It's going to AA. It's going to repetition. I remember a guy saying one time, AA is like getting brainwashed. And his brother, who was also in recovery, long-term recovery, said, well, your brain needs washing because you're so fucking sick. And, you know, it stuck in my mind. I'm like, I was so crazy when I came in here. I didn't think I could get through the day, and I lived alone. I'd go home, and I'd be like,
sit in your shit, right?
Oh, my God. It was awful, you know. And back then, you know, I was used to going home and snorting some lines and drinking and you know, going out and just being crazy or staying in and being crazy. And now you're living a life of basically solitude. But I found I couldn't wait to get to the meeting the next day. I'd run red lights to get to a meeting on time. I'd be doing anything.
You're a cop, so you can get away with that. And that's one of the reasons why Genesis House is a 30 to 90 day program, because we, you know, anybody can go to detox and have, you know, 5 days clean in a detox.
You're in a structured environment.
But we believe that there's, you know, you need the 30 plus days to stay sober. And you know, everybody heard that movie 28 Days, you know, with Sandra Bullock and everything. Are we allowed to say that, Ed?
You're allowed to say whatever you like.
But so the 28 days, there's a specific reason for 28 days, and I don't know if you know what that reason is.
Tell me. I'm not really
the reason for 28 days is you can make or break a habit in 28 days. Now, obviously have to take action after and during, but in 28 days, that habit can go away.
4 weeks, yeah.
It can go away in
weeks.
28 days. So if it's drinking, if it's using drugs, if it's
sex, food,
whatever,
roll.
diets, whatever it is, it goes away in 28 days. But, there's maintenance afterwards, and that's the action that we're talking about today. You have to take everything into action. You have to do that action. Just because you have 28 days clean doesn't mean it goes away, Well,
I found in my own practice, I've been 19 years, I've had my own business doing, child family therapy, addiction, everything. But what I found, what works for me, in spite of myself and not even realizing, but somebody wanted to go to an AA meeting. They'd never been to one. I say, okay, well, Sunday night, my home group has a meeting in Chelmsford, Mass, 7 o'clock. Meet me in my office at 6:30. My office is in Chelmsford. Follow me over. Come in, sit down. That's all you got to do. And I've taken probably 36 people in the last 10 years. All right, that's a conservative estimate. But total strangers, they're with their clients. They come, and I'd say out of that, say we're using 36 people, 36 people. I'd say out of that number there, maybe 6 or 7 have continued to stay with the program.
It's a low success rate in our business.
It is, and you can't expect a high success rate because it's just not going to get it. It's not, especially with this opioid epidemic. This is a horrible, horrible disease. It's a horrible addiction. It's a physical, mental, spiritual, constant craving. Constant craving.
The heroin is different than what when we grew up.
Correct.
I heard somebody say a couple days ago that it's not when or if heroin will kill you or the opiates will kill you. It's when it's going to kill you. Because if you use opiates or heroin, it's going to kill you eventually. It's
There's
Russian
no future.
roulette.
There's no future.
With the alcohol and cocaine, you might die of a heart attack or eventually
cirrhosis.
Cirrhosis.
Whatever,
but it's a long and grueling death. But you're almost guaranteed to die if you're using opiates.
Well, here's a stat. A friend of mine just had a double lung transplant. He's going to be on the show in a few weeks, all right? And he had to quit drinking to get on this list. And here's something I never knew, and probably few people know, unless there's doctors listening to this. You cannot take organs like lungs from a cadaver. You need to take organs like lungs from a living body that's probably going to be a cadaver. So, but it has to be. They have to come right from the body, right?
Alive, right?
So, what do you got? You got a bad motor vehicle accident. He doesn't even know who donated these 2 lungs that he got in late June. Knock on wood, he's doing great.
Good.
But he did write a letter through the hospital, Mass General Hospital, send it to the family to thank him. So we were talking about it. We had lunch a few weeks ago, and he said it could have been a car accident. I said it could have been an overdose. It could have been someone who was clinically dead, brain dead, because what happens is when you overdose on this
the
opiates or the fentanyl, it shuts your breathing down. It shuts your lungs down and your brain down. They go, but now they interact and they try to keep you alive. They put you on a ventilator. So now your organs are still functioning. Then the family decides, well, his brain's dead. There's no quality of life. What do you want to do with the organs? Well, so since this opioid epidemic's been in full swing for the last 4.5, 5 years, organ transplants and organ donations has increased. 13%. 13% more. So now you think of that. So now, sad, but it's a fact. Because people are dying, they're overdosing, they're brain dead.
And they're probably very young, too, I'm guessing.
And they're young, exactly. Yeah. So as sad of a fact that is, it's a factual situation that some people are actually getting something positive out of it. Unfortunately, there's a lot to be given that's not fortunate for the other families.
And that's if you don't put this program into action.
Right.
That's where you're going to end up. So it's sad. So, the action is the important part of it. And, also, Mike, give them a number where they can get a hold of you. Genesis House, you can call us at 800-737-0933 for the family or the addict. That's 800-737-0933. That's for Genesis House, and you'll get one of our qualified people down at Genesis House to help you out. And Mike, I know you always give out your number.
You can call me at Therapy Services 978-833-0187. That's Therapy Services 978-833-0187. Also, Mike Miles, M as in Mike, S as in Sam, W as in whiskey.com. Excuse me, Mike Miles, MSW help@gmail.com.
And remember, send us your emails here at the show at help@friendsinrecovery.com. That's
Right.
help@friendsinrecovery.com. And we will get your name on the air. Tell us your sobriety date, and we'll send
Right.
you out a mug and a T-shirt,
Yeah, if you
right?
put a little effort into it, we'll send you a nice mug.
That's right. We'll put a little
T-shirt.
effort into it.
Yep. T-shirts are nice. They say Podfather on them.
Yeah, and you're the Podfather.
I am the Podfather.
That's right.
You're Jersey Ed.
Jersey Ed.
right.
That's it. That's it. So
Well, I think we're wrapping it up, Ed.
that is it. That sounds like the music out of here, guys.
Next holiday is Groundhog Day, so everybody be kind to your groundhog.
Take care. Stay sober, everybody.
All right, thank you.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.